like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Nigeria's energy scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's fascinating stuff.
Definitely.
Specifically, how this one massive refinery is making some serious waves.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Our main source for this deep dive is this recent article from Eon's Intelligence.
Okay.
They're a Nigerian news site.
All right.
And, I think this is going to be a pretty wild ride, so buckle up.
Sounds good.
So basically, we're trying to figure out how this single refinery is totally shaking up the market, impacting prices, and maybe even changing the way fuel is distributed in the whole country.
I mean, that's a pretty big impact for just one refinery.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so first things first, we got to introduce the star of the show, right?
What are we talking about?
The Dangote Refinery.
Okay.
This thing is absolutely massive, and it's set to be a major player in the whole Nigerian energy sector.
Yeah, this isn't just some small-time operation.
No.
This is the big leagues.
It's a game changer.
For sure.
And they've just made this move that's got everyone talking.
Oh, really? What'd they do?
They partnered up with this group called IPMAN.
IPMAN.
Yeah, so IPMAN stands for the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria.
Okay, so they're the ones actually getting the fuel out there.
Yeah, they're like the folks who keep your car running.
Right. They manage those fuel depots and retail outlets all over.
Exactly.
But what's this partnership all about?
Well, get this. They're now getting their fuel directly from the Dangote Refinery.
Wow, so they're cutting out the middleman?
Exactly. And IPM's president, Abubakar Garima, he's super pumped about this.
Oh, I bet.
He's basically saying this direct link-up could be the answer to finally having dependable and affordable fuel in Nigeria.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
I know, right?
So how's this going to work? I mean, fuel distribution in Nigeria, it's always been kind of messy, right?
Yeah, you've got all these different players, each one adding their own little markup along the way.
So this is going to streamline things.
Hopefully, yeah, that's
Great.
the idea.
And that should lead to some savings.
Oh, absolutely.
For the average person, I mean, that could be huge.
Oh, totally.
Less money on fuel means more money for other things.
Exactly.
And then, think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That kind of price drop could be good for the whole economy.
Definitely. Okay, so the article actually mentions that petrol prices have already gone down.
They have.
From N990 to N970 per liter.
That's significant.
Yeah, so imagine what that kind of price drop could mean for you if you were filling up your tank in Nigeria.
Oh, man, I'd be happy about that.
Right.
For sure.
But hold on a sec.
What?
Getting fuel from this massive refinery to your local gas station, it's not exactly instant magic,
No, it's a whole process.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Definitely.
So walk us through it. How's this partnership actually going to work on the ground?
Well, it's pretty interesting, actually.
Okay.
While IPMN is finalizing all the paperwork with Dangote, they've got this temporary deal with another company called MRS Oil. Yeah, and they're going to handle the distribution for now.
So it's a temporary solution to keep things moving while they figure out the long-term plan.
Exactly, and it shows they're thinking ahead.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid any hiccups during this transition phase.
And it really highlights how complex this whole thing is,
What do you mean?
Overhauling a system as big as Nigeria's fuel supply chain.
Right.
You can't just snap your fingers and expect everything to change overnight.
No, definitely not. Okay, so this is what I'm curious about.
What's that?
If IPMAN is getting fuel straight from Dangote now,
Yeah.
what happens to all the other players in the game?
Ah, you mean the ones who are part of that old, more complicated system?
Exactly.
That's a great question.
Right.
This really throws a wrench into things.
Yeah.
For the companies who relied on being the middleman, this is going to be a big adjustment. They're going to have to adapt or risk getting squeezed out.
So potentially this could completely shake up not just fuel prices, but the whole structure of Nigeria's energy sector.
Oh, absolutely. This could trigger a wave of competition as everyone tries to figure out where they fit in this new landscape.
Wow.
And you know what?
What?
That competition?
Yeah.
That could be a good thing.
For who?
For consumers like you.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
How could this competition lead to even more savings?
Yeah, break it down for me.
Okay, so imagine this.
Okay.
The other players in the market.
Yeah.
They want to stay competitive, right?
Right.
So they're going to have to lower their prices.
To match IPMAN.
Exactly. Or even undercut them.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Pretty much.
This one partnership could push prices down across the board.
Exactly.
And that would be huge for consumers.
Oh, yeah. Huge win.
Right.
And it all comes back to supply and demand.
Okay.
With more efficient distribution and potentially more players in the game.
Yeah.
The supply of fuel goes up, which means prices go down.
It's amazing how like one business deal can have such a ripple effect.
It really is.
You know, it makes me think about another layer to this whole story.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
The impact on Nigeria's foreign exchange market.
Ah, yes. That's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Right?
Especially when you consider how much Nigeria relies on fuel imports.
Exactly. Okay, so for those of us who aren't like financial wizards,
Right.
break down this whole foreign exchange thing.
Basically, Nigeria's had to rely on importing fuel from other countries for a long time,
Right.
which means they've been using their foreign currency to pay for it.
Okay.
And that can be a real drain on their economy.
It's like imagine you're always having to trade your own money for some foreign currency just to buy something you need.
Exactly. It gets expensive.
Yeah, and complicated.
Right.
But with the Dangote Refinery making fuel locally
Yeah.
and IPMAN distributing it directly,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria could cut back on those pricey imports.
Which would be huge for their economy.
Right. Totally. And it could lead to a more stable Nigerian currency, too,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
which would benefit everyone in the country.
It's like a domino effect, you know?
Right.
One good thing leads to another.
So we're looking at a potential win-win-win here.
It seems like it.
Lower fuel prices for consumers,
Yep.
a stronger economy for Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and less reliance on foreign imports.
It's pretty remarkable.
It's like this partnership is a perfect example of all the challenges and opportunities facing Nigeria's energy sector.
It really is, and it raises a big question.
What's that?
Could this be the start of something bigger?
Like what?
Like energy independence for Nigeria?
Wow.
You know, producing more of their own energy and relying less on others?
That's a fascinating thought.
It is.
It makes me wonder about the long-term impact.
Yeah,
Could this lead to more investment in Nigerian refineries?
possibly.
Could it even boost alternative energy sources like solar or wind power?
Those are great questions.
Right?
And I think only time will tell how it all plays out.
True. But it definitely feels like this partnership could be a catalyst for some serious change.
Well, for sure. It's like shaking up a snow globe
I like that analogy.
and watching how the flakes settle into a new pattern.
Okay, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves, though.
Right.
This partnership looks promising,
Definitely.
but there could be some bumps in the road, too.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of the challenges you think they might face?
Well, one of the biggest ones for IPMAN is just the sheer size of Nigeria.
Right?
Distributing fuel across a country that big and diverse,
Yeah.
that's a logistical nightmare.
Totally.
You're going to need the infrastructure to handle this much fuel.
It's like suddenly having to deliver way more packages with the same number of trucks.
Exactly. You need a solid plan.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of making sure those lower prices actually reach the consumers.
That's a good point.
It's one thing for IPMAN to get cheaper fuel from Dangote,
Right.
but those savings have to trickle down to the people at the pump.
And there's always a chance someone could try to take a bigger cut along the way.
Exactly. So you got to keep an eye on things.
So many questions.
You know, right?
Can IPMAN handle the logistics?
Mm,
Will consumers actually see those lower prices?
yeah.
How will the rest of the energy sector adapt?
This is why this whole thing is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just a one-time event.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
With so many moving parts.
Exactly. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
I think it's pretty important,
I-
especially these days.
Right. I'm intrigued.
The environmental impact of all this.
Ah.
Producing and distributing fuel always has consequences for the environment.
No doubt.
So what do you think?
About what?
How's this partnership going to affect Nigeria's efforts to be more sustainable?
That's a great question.
Right.
And it's a tough one to answer.
Well, let's try to break it down.
Okay.
What are some of the pros and cons we should be thinking about?
All right. Well, on the positive side,
Yeah.
by producing more fuel domestically,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria could potentially reduce the emissions from transporting fuel from so far away.
Oh, right. All those ships and trucks burning fuel to get that imported stuff to Nigeria?
Exactly. Less transportation means a smaller carbon footprint.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then you've got the downsides.
Like what?
Well, even though it's brand new, the Dangote Refinery is still a fossil fuel refinery.
Right.
And burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases.
Which contribute to climate change.
Exactly.
So it's a trade-off.
Kinda.
Less reliance on imports might be good for the environment in terms of transportation,
Yeah.
but more domestic production could mean more emissions from the refinery itself.
It's a complicated situation.
I know easy answers.
Nope. And it shows how important it is for Nigeria to think about its environmental policies.
As they move forward with this partnership and their overall energy strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is a chance for them to invest more in renewable energy.
Like solar or wind power. That would really help reduce their reliance on fossil fuels.
That would be exciting.
Wouldn't it?
If this partnership not only lowered fuel prices and helped the economy, but also led to a more sustainable future.
That's the dream.
A win for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's all about finding that balance.
Between economic growth, energy security, and environmental responsibility.
And that's a challenge every country's facing.
For sure.
Well, I think it's about time we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
But before we go,
Yeah.
I want to leave you, our listener, with something to think about. We've talked about how this could affect fuel prices and the economy and the environment.
Yeah.
But I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts?
That's a good question.
What do you make of all this?
Well, here's something to think about.
Okay.
We've talked about the benefits for consumers
Right.
and for Nigeria's economy as a whole. But what about the social implications?
The social implications.
Yeah, like how might this shift affect different communities across Nigeria?
Oh, that's interesting.
Could it lead to more equal access to affordable energy? Or could it make existing inequalities even worse?
That's a really good point. It's easy to focus on the big economic picture.
It is.
But the most important impacts often happen at a local level.
Exactly. Like think about those rural communities,
Yeah.
the ones that might have had trouble getting fuel before.
Right. Could this partnership make it easier for them?
Or could it actually benefit urban areas more? These are the kinds of questions we need to keep in mind.
As this story unfolds.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even good intentions can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
And it shows why it's so important to keep track of things.
And make sure everyone benefits from these changes.
Exactly.
And you know what else?
What?
It also shows how important it is for people to get involved.
What do you mean?
To stay informed about what's happening and make their voices heard.
Because in the end, it's their lives that are affected by these decisions.
That's so true. So to everyone listening, we encourage you to do your own research, ask questions, and talk about Nigeria's energy future.
Your perspective matters.
It really does.
And remember,
Yeah.
this is just one part of a much bigger story.
That's right.
The global energy landscape is constantly changing.
It is.
And we all need to stay informed and engaged in shaping a better future.
A more sustainable and equitable future.
Exactly, one that works for everyone.
Well said. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive
Yeah.
into the Dangote Refinery and its impact on Nigeria's fuel market.
I hope everyone found it as insightful as we did.
It's been a fascinating journey, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, stay curious.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.